Okay, item number 4, Chair will entertain a motion to approve minutes of the previous board meeting.
Move.
Motion by Trustee Duncan. Second. Trustee Mitchell. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing no request to speak, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Does she still have my pen?
Yeah,
Okay.
I need it.
Do you wish to speak?
No, but I need your pen. Okay, I'll give it back.
Here, I'll give you this
All
one
right.
here. We'll give you a little.
So, the only one, we will move right on, no public comments tonight, and this is hard to believe, I know, but no comments from the president tonight. So we will move into the committee, thank you, Chief. We'll move into the committee reports, and first up is the Airport Commission. And items 1 and 2 we'll take together. Jeremy Sickler, the manager of the airport, is here for his quarterly report to the Port Edwards Village Board. So if you do have any comments on proceedings of the commission, you can ask Mr. Sickler. Jeremy, it's all yours.
Well, as he said, is there any comments or questions that I can entertain before I get into what will be admittedly brief annual review of 2018? Okay. I'm not much for reading a handout verbatim. I guess I'll just cover some of the highlights of this. You can probably, as you read through it, realize there was a lot of construction and development that took place out there. I think that was to be expected considering the amount of funding and the amount of activity and some of the expectations. This is long foreseen as what will be our busiest year for construction and development out there. So I had some disappointment when if you look down to the area where it says postponed work, there was, I believe, some balls that were dropped by the contractors over the course of the project, mismanagement of scheduling, and I think misuse of their ability to claim that they had weather-related issues and delays. However, be that as it may, there's still a lot of work from this fall project that I was expecting would have been done. I think everybody expected would have been done. That's spilling over till next spring. Under the promise from those very same contractors that we're going to be the first. The first one will be their top their priority list when we get the appropriate weather next spring. So we'll see how that goes. It shouldn't affect what will be our anticipated construction for next year. At least they don't. One's not dependent on the other. They're working simultaneously. It wouldn't be too big of an issue. So,
Jeremy, is this a contractor we've used in the past out there?
well, it's the same paving contractor that gets almost every job in this area because they're the only game in town.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
So the big apron expansion, which was the kind of the center, the focal point of this entire development, isn't even done. And my biggest concern is that if they have fresh asphalt out there that they're putting in, that they're getting in May or possibly June, is that going to have enough time to cure and cool and get ready for 70, 80, 90,000 pound planes to be moving across it? So I'm crossing my fingers that they do indeed hold themselves to their word and come out and get that done early enough in the construction season that should then set us up for our busy aircraft season. Next year, there's another big project, as I mentioned. The full length of the long runway is now going to have a parallel taxiway. That design, the project is out, the bid is already out, the project has been let. The governor signed off on it. It's just, we're waiting, crossing our fingers for an early spring good weather to get that project underway. Short window of completion for that one, with the expectation of minimization of closure of the long runway, again, because that's the only runway that the jets can use is that long runway. So they're expected to keep their closures to a minimum. And that's managed mostly by our engineer. So the one bit of good news we did get recently was the commission had conserved out of that $4 million grant. I'm guessing all of you are familiar with the $4 million grant. Does that sound okay? the commission had conserved about $890,000 of that with the anticipation of building a hangar sometime in the future. And we got a engineer, a design architect under contract to design it for us. When we went to meet with the architect and to go tour some of the buildings that they had designed and built at the Appleton Airport, we were pleasantly surprised by the Bureau of Aeronautics that rather than $890,000, when they redid the calculations of how much money had been put out for projects, we were sitting with more like 2.15 million that was left out of that for. Through some, it'd take a long time to explain exactly how this worked, but through some accounting voodoo that they did at the Bureau of Aeronautics, they were able to conserve another 1.3-ish million dollars for us to spend on what will eventually, now that I think the question of whether or not we would build a hangar and when is more like, how can we get it in as fast as we can, because that's the next most requested service that we don't currently have out there for these bigger planes.
So it is for transients.
It would be almost exclusively, well, as much as we would like to think we would have use for it in the winter, realistically, yeah, it would be the summer surge that would be keeping. So that's the one thing that makes this kind of hard to justify. If it wasn't somebody else's money we were playing with to justify this big of an expenditure for a 6 week or for half the year, while it's sat almost empty for the other half of the year, it might be kind of hard to justify. But the Bureau of Aeronautics has been very generous with us, so we're going to get that hangar sooner than we thought we had expected, and at a lot less local cost, local contribution to that project than we expected. So that was good news. So that's the two projects.
Bureau of Aeronautics come out to my office if they can turn 890,000 into 2.1 million.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. He was definitely a miracle worker that day. So 2 big construction projects next year, and then I would like to think that we'll be set up very well for a long time. And what I've been already trying to alert people with some foresight is that, we're going to have 90% of that airport's going to have asphalt, which has been constructed within a 3-year window. So it probably won't affect any of us, but someday somebody's going to be looking back at us thinking, those idiots, because now all that pavement is going to be failing and need reconstruction at roughly the same time. The state, unfortunately, nor the state or FAA, unfortunately, doesn't have any long-range maintenance programs. They're happy to help you build it to get it going, but then the long-range maintenance of it is based on the commission to do what it needs to do to prolong the life of that and or plan for its redevelopment 25-30 years down the road. So I'm probably stirring the pot more than they want me to, but at the Bureau of Aeronautics I'm pushing for them having some program where within the contract, if you bid and build a project, maybe your first 1 to 3 years of asphalt maintenance is figured into the cost of that contract. It seems logical that that they don't just leave it all in our hands, but that neither here nor there. 2 projects next year, and then, well, that is assuming that everything goes well in the planning for the hangar, and then hopefully we'll be take a breath from construction. It seems like it's been forever out there. Operations, just added up some of the numbers today, at least on activity. Last year I estimated there was between 600 and 700 planes that came in bringing primarily Sand Valley traffic, transient aircraft. It was closer to 800 this year. With that small increase in traffic, our fuel and revenues and all those other things went up significantly more than just that incremental increase. So, but that was also anticipated because Sand Valley mentioned that their average distance traveled coming from 2017 to 2018, they have metrics to be able to measure their average distance traveled by their clientele. So they knew that people were coming from a longer distance for their second season. So like I said, we had a reasonable assumption that we would be busier as well, which we were, and they were taking more fuel. Of Of course, we're gonna hear plenty of things that we could do better or could do different when these folks are accustomed to going to airports and businesses and business providers at airports that are a lot busier and have a lot more activity and money. But the commission, I think, is doing a reasonable job of being responsible with their money, yet also being adaptive enough to be able to get some of the things that these aircraft are asking for. So you'll see a couple of things we purchased this year were a ground power unit and a lavatory cart. Those are two services that aircraft frequently need when they land at or use an airport. So just two more things that we offer to hopefully make their stays here a little more comfortable. And aside from that, you can see some of the PR stuff we did at the bottom, tours for churches and schools and civic groups and social groups. Business after hours, some of these PR, public relations type things that we have. The commission has made more of an effort to do since I've been here than at least what I can tell had been. Joe, you might speak for me prior to this. There was not a lot of that had been done at the airport prior to, as far as I can see, since I've been here. So
There's a lot different between the airport manager time and the fixed-based operator time.
Yeah, that makes it probably the difference right there. The one thing, just coincidentally tonight, there is another group hosting one of their meetings there. They are using the lobby area in the main floor of the terminal as a meeting space because they like to meet at different entities, businesses around the community. So as another offering from the Airport Commission, I've heard Zach talk about it with plenty of people that there's space here. If you need space for a meeting, use it. So if you guys are members of any groups or hear of any shortages of meeting space, don't be afraid to refer them to me over at the airport. As long as it's not going to be something too intrusive, should be no problem.
Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I mean, I could drone on as long as you want. I'm sure you could use the
Between you and I and airport commissions of the past, we kept her going until Mayor Gerwin told us that we have to move on. So.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate it. Are there any questions of the?
You have with one long runway, correct?
Correct. If you look at a satellite view of or an overhead view, it's oriented northeast from up by the sewage treatment plant to the southwest down by kind of the corner of where Range Line Road and Z come together by Nutco Lake. That's the longest runway.
As my understanding is that usually you try to take off into the wind to help with lift, and you try to land into the wind to help with braking. Aren't you very limited by then having only one runway like that?
Yes, there is two runways. So the nice thing about these larger aircraft, we're gonna get into some aviation nerd stuff here. There's what's called a penetration speed. It's a function of weight and approach speed. And then your crosswind component. The pilots figure that out. Usually those planes are either heavy enough or fast enough that they can penetrate the crosswind, that they don't have to worry too much about it. The shorter runway, that's what we call the crosswind runway, is the one that is critical for the smaller aircraft where they just have to have more options to land. So the jets are pretty comfortable landing in some pretty stiff crosswinds.
Are you almost in a position where a second long runway would be advantageous?
I don't know that we're losing business because of a lack of another long runway. I've never heard of people not coming to our airport because of wind. If that's the end, does that answer your question?
Wasn't necessarily meaning wind as much as just convenience of getting on and off and on various traffic.
Yeah. I haven't heard that. If it's a concern among the pilots or the users, I haven't heard it.
Okay.
I'd find it unlikely to guess that there's a lot of planes that would be. The reason they're not coming here isn't because of our runways, it's because we don't offer a service that they expect, or we don't have hangar space for them, and there's a hailstorm coming, things like that. If they're going to Mosinee or Appleton or the Dells, it's because they're getting something there that we just don't have, and we're trying to catch ourselves up with that.
Anybody else? If not, Jeremy, thank you very much. And as usual, we will see you now. The next quarter will be at the board meeting, second Tuesday in April.
Sounds good to me, I'll see you then.
That will be
Thank you.
April
Thank you.
9th. So, and you're more than welcome to stay. We know you like meetings.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll demonstrate how much I like meetings. Have a good night, you guys.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yep, thank you, have a good night.
Okay, moving on, we will call upon the Vice Chairman of the Police and Fire Commission, Doug Caston, filling in for Chairman Stewart, who is in warmer climes right now. And if you'll notice on your agenda, item number 2, not only Commissioner Caston will say that is not going to happen now, but Chief Radke will have a little to add on it later on too. Commissioner Caston.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. On the fire department side, you probably have seen on TV over the last several weeks that the more mandated training is going to be required for the fire department. Chief Arndt is well aware of that, knows what he's going to do, has a procedure in place for his firemen to meet those new requirements and continue to go on. He has a staff of firemen right now that are up in the Fireman 2 range, and so we're doing very well in that area. Officers training is being developed and moving forward as it comes along. Chief Arndt also informed us that the second assistant chief, James Sherman, has resigned his position as assistant chief and from the fire department. And Jim had 32 years on the department and was also a first responder. He will be sorely missed, and the commission secretary will be sending him a thank you note for his years of service. The commission will be working with Chief Arndt to establish a list of qualifications and procedures to fill the assistant chief's position. In our manual, there are sections and attachments that describe the procedures that are needed to move forward. And like always, some of the state rules are written for full-time departments, and working with a volunteer department means that there are some areas that we have to review. And so we'll be working with Chief on that aspect. As far as the open police chief position is concerned, as was reported to you, I believe before, is that the commission has decided to take our time filling this position. It is expected the search will begin the spring of this year, that we'll make an effort to go out and recruit and move ahead. There's several reasons behind that, which probably have been mentioned, but one, it's difficult as it is to find officers to apply. Surprisingly, throughout the state, it is a very common thing. And so we also feel that the tension that has been created may cause people not to show up for things, so we're going to let it sit down for a while, if that's the right word. The temporary part-time police status, as the president has said, will be changed a little bit. But the commission passed an amendment a meeting ago or so, to which allows a lateral transfer. Lateral transfers mean that somebody is working full-time in an area department, the county or the adjacent counties. He's in good standing, passes a background check, and then he will be made exempt from testing, written test, physical test, etc., because he's established himself in the local area. So Interim Chief Radke did a good job, did a real nice follow-up on getting us the background information, had interviewed along with our commission member Gary Bloom, and found a good candidate. And However, due to a technical, we'll call it a technical difficulty, the individual this morning said he had to turn the job down. But we had approved his position last night, so we were that close. Chief has also indicated that there are other applicants that has approached him that may be viable candidates, so he's going to move forward with that. So hopefully maybe at the next month we will have something established in that area as far as another part-time. Chief did indicate to us, and I don't have any details, and he can certainly fill us in on them if you need it, but the difference between hiring a lateral transferred employee means that employee, 10 years in the business, knows how to do everything, knows what the procedures are, and etc. To take somebody out of school or somebody who's relatively really new, it's estimated some $5,000–6,000 to get the person trained. A lateral employee probably is going to work tomorrow after they've showed them the roads in the village. So, so that's part of the concept of having part-time employees. And with that, I'd like to thank Chief Arndt and Chief Radke for maintaining the quality departments and the coverage that we've had during this period of time that we're going through searching for replacements on the assistant chief and for the part-time officers. So thank you.
Anybody have any questions for the vice chairman? Reference police and fire. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Caston. Alrighty, we will move on to the Streets, Infrastructure, Recreation, Cemetery Committee. Chairman Saylor.
Yeah, we had a meeting on December 11th. I just want to bring up two things. The skating rink is open. The warming house is not as of right now, so if anybody's interested in using that, you're more than welcome to. We're kind of seeing how the usage is for that before we may or may not expand on that. So we'll be talking more on that in January. And then the last thing that I want to bring up is we're going to have a discussion next month on the ATV traffic on the south side of Seneca Road. So if anybody has any yays or nays on that, if you'd like to discuss it for the next meeting in January. Other than that, it was a pretty plain Jane. So I don't have anything else unless anybody has any questions on anything.
I have a comment.
The ice skating pond is getting a lot of use, like a lot. Like there was a time when there was 14 people on there. So that's been exciting to drive by and see that. So I hope that we can look at expanding that, at least having the bathrooms. That would be good.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Chairman Saylor. We will now move on to the Planning, Property, and Information Technology Committee. Chairman Duncan.
We met on December 18th. Does anybody have any questions based on the minutes? Hearing none, we have two motions to bring before the board. First is a motion to approve the 2019 fee schedule.
Okay, the motion will be entered, or has been made by Chairman Duncan to approve the 2019 fee schedule. Do I have a second? Second by Trustee Mitchell. Any discussion? Hearing no request to speak, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
We have a second motion, and that's to move to the second phase of the architectural services and bid.
Motion by Chairman Duncan to move to the second phase of the architectural services and bid. Is there a second on that motion?
Is there a dollar amount? Because there's nothing that's listed anywhere, so we should have that part of the motion.
The estimate you know, we haven't gone out to bid, but I guess that's
Is
the,
that, okay, that's the,
we need to go, we know,
It's-
need to
it's
bid
a-
the project.
okay, so it's a motion to bid the project, so it's clear. All right.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by trustee Mitchell. Is there any discussion?
I just have a question.
Okay.
Is that budgeted, or is that gonna be taken out as debt? The project?
What's budgeted is for a loan payment, so the idea would be to take out a loan for the appropriate loan for the project.
Any other questions? Hearing no further requests to speak, all those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that's it.
Okey dokey, Chairman Martinson, Public Safety Committee.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee met on December 20th, and we had a very easy meeting. Any questions regarding the minutes from the meeting? At this point, I guess I would like to make a motion to approve the domestic abuse training with the Family Center.
Motion by Chairman Martinson to approve domestic abuse training for police officers with the Family Center in Wisconsin Rapids. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by the Vice President. Is there any discussion? Hearing no request to...
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I would just like to state that I think this is a very important training session. It was brought to our attention by Officer Radke, and I think that it's something that we definitely need to have done. And I thank him for bringing it to our attention, and I think it's worthwhile.
Any further discussion?
Would it be possible to come back afterwards and just give us a synopsis of what the training involved and what kinds of things?
Sure, I can do that.
I'd be kind of curious to know what they're doing and such.
If it's still in the police policy handbook, years ago when I was chief, they put in there that we had to write a written report on all training that we went to. Like you would submit it directly to the committee and your officers would submit it to you. I don't even know if it's still on the books, but
I'll take a look
just
for that.
food for thought, chief. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, domestic abuse training with the Family Center in Wisconsin Rapids, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
It was also brought to our attention that there is going to be a annual conference on February 11th through the 13th in the Dells. And at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the interim chief Radke's attendance at the 2019 Chiefs of Police Association Annual Conference, February 11th through the 13th, to be held in the Dells, and that will be a 3-night lodging and conference fees.
Second.
Motion by Chairman Martinson to approve Chief Radke's attendance at the 2019 Wisconsin Chiefs of Police Association Annual Conference in Wisconsin Dells, February 11th through the 13th, and the standard expenses, meaning lodging and conference fees. And a second was made by Trustee Grundon. Is there any discussion? Hearing no request to speak, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I don't have anything else.
Okay, Chairman Martinson will now go into Finance and Human Resource.
Finance Committee met on January 3rd. We did have some discussion regarding physicals and employment physicals and physical forms. And there will be a follow-up information that we provided to the FHR committee from Mr. Mike Korneman. And we'll look at those items at that time at the next meeting. Other than that, I would like to make a motion to approve the payment of the bills.
Second.
Motion by Chairman Martinson, second by Vice President Duncan to approve payment of the bills. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I'd like to make the motion to approve the journal entries of the previous month.
Second.
Motion by Chairman Martinson, second by Vice President Duncan to approve the journal entries of the previous month. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Number 8, unfinished business from previous meetings. I have nothing. Nothing. Okay, new business. Alrighty, report for village officers. We will go into the clerk treasurer. Diane?
Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to award the full-time employees a $50 chamber gift certificate as a safety award for no workers' comp lost time claims in 2018 and 22 years without a lost time incident.
Chairman? Motion by Vice President Duncan, second by Chairman Martinson to award the full-time employees a $50 chamber gift certificate and safety award for no worker compensation lost time claims for 2018. And that makes 22 years without a lost time incident. Discussion. Hearing no request to speak, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Who? 22 years, attaboys and girls. Thank you.
I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the length of service award payment for 2018.
So moved.
In the amount of $66,2002 and the annual corresponding maintenance fee of $830 for qualifying firefighters.
Moved.
Second.
Motion as read by Vice President Duncan, second by Trustee Grundon. To approve this motion as read. Discussion? Yes, Trustee Mitchell.
Could you explain a little bit about that, Diane, each of them, actually, what those payments are actually for?
Well, the $66,2002 is the village's share that's paid toward the retirement, and the state matches that. And then the other one's an administrative fee that they charge for handling.
That's with the Wisconsin retirement system?
No, it's not.
It's
Patrick
what?
probably knows.
It's a length of service award that they started trying to keep volunteers, EMTs.
Oh, it's related to fire.
Fire, EMTs, any services.
But I mean, in the village, it's related.
Yes.
What about police?
No.
No, just fire.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Okay. Who made my motion? Duncan Grundon? Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
No vote? Okay. Alrighty, number 12, trustee comments. Anything that should be brought to the attention of the board?
10.
Pardon?
We skipped 10.
He said he had them.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Well, sorry, Mike, you know how it goes. Moving on, no. Report from the village administrator.
Just want to reiterate Trustee Saylor's comment on the skating pond that's open, and it's good to see people out getting outside.
Okay, fire chief. Anything to add to the?
Yep.
How's our fire truck going?
December 17th, we went over and took a look at our fire truck. The pump is in, the body is on, painted. I was on the phone today with Darley. They're actually lettering the truck right now. When I get done here, I will be on a conference call with them, also setting up the hose, all the hose layouts and everything are the colors. I am saying by the end of the month, we should take delivery. It could be somewhere in February, but the way they're moving, it's coming along. So.
Good. If I may ask a question, is it, what, on its delivery, is there gonna be any storage issues with the other truck, or?
No, we're gonna have to, we gotta switch the radios over and stuff like that. Everything's wired in, so it's just moving the radios, getting the antennas in. We will have to winterize the old truck.
Cold storage?
Cold storage, and then from there, you guys will have to make your decision, put it on the auction site or try to go open bids or close bids or whatever, so. But I'll keep you up to date as soon as they're moving along, they're cranking on it right now, so. And Jim Sherman did retire, 32 years, so, and then as the process is moving on, we'll figure out, and people will be moving through the fire department, so.
Okay, anything else?
No, that's it.
Any questions for Chief Aaron? Chief Radke?
Well, like Chairman Gaston had said, we hope to get all the part-timers going. We have 4 positions and we have 1 open. Hopefully, by the next meeting, we'll have another candidate. The village transfer is a good thing for the village. It saves us a lot of money in training. I think that we looked at some of the figures that it's between $6,000 and $7,000 to train a new part-timer that comes green from one of our schools, and with an officer that has some experience, we can save a lot of money on training. I've talked to the village administrator about this, and he has agreement. So hopefully we can have that up and running by the next meeting. The other thing is, with the village administrator and the police department's been working together on some ordinance violations, some garbage issues that we've kind of straightened out, and some dwelling issues in the community that have been taken care of. We're still working on a few more. Other than that, things are going well.
Okie dokie. Any questions for Chief Radke? Okay, doke. Did I miss anything else? No, I think I'm okay now, right?
No, you're the trustee, Colin.
Oh, no, I'm not trustee comments. Any trustee have a comment besides trustee Duncan? Trustee Martinson.
I do have a comment. I just wanted to double check with Mike. You had mentioned to me that we had an update from our workers' comp carrier that we had a reduction of $2,000, I believe, in our premium, our annual premium. So again, I just congratulate all of the employees that contribute to safe environment.
Who's our carrier?
United. Is it United?
United
Heartland, yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, one of the, last year, our workman's comp, our organizations are indexed. If you're a 1.0, your average, we were 1.04 last year, and we got it adjusted down to, I think, 0.97 or 6.
9.6 or 7, yeah.
So.
Trustee Mitchell.
I was just gonna comment because it's beginning of a new year, and we went through a lot of changes last year. And I'm glad that I'm part of a board of trustees that was able to do that very successfully. I think, including hiring a new administrator that we've learned to work well with, and yeah, a lot of other changes that happened, department and so forth. But yeah, I congratulate all of us, I guess, for being able to do that and work as a board.
I think the board is doing an excellent job. Yes, sir.
I'm just letting the public know, and pretty much all the board members know, the DMI situation is not on a back burner, it's on a front burner and hot. And we'll just leave it at that. So if anybody has any questions or concerns or anything about that, they can understand that things are moving. It's not something that we're just ignoring, it's moving, but we're limited in what we can say publicly.
Thank you, sir. All right. Committee meeting calendar. These will be the meetings of the Port Edwards Village Board for January 9th, 2019 to and including February 12th, 2019. On Tuesday, January 15th at 5 o'clock, the Streets, Infrastructure, and Recreation Committee will meet in the municipal building. On Tuesday, January 22nd at 4:30 p.m., the CERT Committee will meet again at the municipal building. This is a special meeting to address one issue regarding the splash pad. Michael?
Yes.
And this meeting will be a one-item agenda thing, and it has been approved by Chairman Saylor. Also on Tuesday, January 22nd at 5 p.m. in the municipal building, the Property and Planning Information Technology Committee will meet. On Monday, February...
We do not have a zoning committee meeting next month.
I have not been notified of
Not in
that.
January.
All right.
Okay. We're sure on that?
Yes.
Excellent. Monday, February 4th at 6:30 p.m., the Police and Fire Commission will meet in the municipal building. That Monday, first Monday is your usual day of meeting, so. Tuesday, February 5th at 5 p.m., the Public Safety Committee will meet in the municipal building. On Thursday, February 7th at 5 p.m., the Finance and Human Resource Committee will meet in the municipal building. And lastly, on Tuesday, February 12th at 7 p.m., right here at Edwards Alexander Pavilion, the Port Edwards Village Board will have their February meeting. Anybody need a repeat? And did I make any errors in that? Any final comments? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second by Trustee Mitchell. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.